and welcome to IGPP Expert Talks. I am Heena Goswami, Editorial Consultant with IGPP, Institute for Governance, Policies and Politics, New Delhi. We are here on the sidelines of an international conference being organized by IGPP in collaboration with CSSS, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, Justice Liburg University, Gießen, and German Research Foundation, Germany. The conference, Environmental Policy Discourses since the 1960s, Politics, Problems, and Narratives of Environmental Policies in Europe and Asia, is an attempt to bridge narratives and inquire into the discourses of environmental policies that have governed Europe and Asia since the 1960s. Academicians, experts, policymakers, and researchers are gathered in New Delhi, and today we have with us the keynote speaker for the conference, Professor Anand Kumar. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you.
Professor Anand Kumar was a professor and chairperson of Center for the Study of Social Systems, JNU, before he formally retired in 2014. He has been a student leader at BHU, JNU, and Chicago, a teacher in BHU and JNU in India, and has been a visiting professor at many institutions across the globe in his academic career that has spanned over 3 decades. He has been actively advocating for social and political causes, including but not limited to students' rights issues and the cause of Tibet. The canvas of his experience and expertise is very wide, and we cannot cover even a fraction of it in this short duration. For this interview on the sidelines of the conference, we would like to stick to just a few questions around his views on the environment and social challenges of the contemporary world, and to know if any of the isms, including socialism, have an answer to them. Well, I'll come back to the idea of socialism that we talked about. Socialism was what the country, when we formulated our constitution, that was the idea, that was the ideology that the state chose for the development of people. How do you feel about the kind of socialism that Nehru chose for the development, and or would you agree with his kind of socialism, or would you agree with his critiques that no, that was not the right socialism for the country?
See, Jawaharlal ji had a great admiration for the idea of a collective future. That's why he sacrificed his youth for the freedom of India. Otherwise, as a person, as a well-educated Indian, coming from a very affluent family, educated in England, he had no compulsion to join the freedom struggle and sacrifice all that was good in his life, personal life, for the cause of freedom. But when he became Prime Minister of India, he had 3 challenges. One was the absolute non-cooperation of the Western world. Britishers and the rest of Western Europe and America did not forgive us for fighting for our freedom and becoming an independent country. Second was partition. It was a very traumatic experience. It had shaken the roots of Indian civilization. Hindus and Muslims had lived together for centuries, and we had more in common than to fight for. As it happens, the partition of India followed by problem of Kashmir, then wars between India and Pakistan in 65, in 71, self-destructive politics of South Asia. And third was the urban lobby, industrial lobby. I don't think that Jawaharlal Nehru was given free hand to create a socialist India. He did create a large public sector, but this public sector was subsidizing the private sector. So investment was coming in infrastructure, electricity, transport, steel, long-term gestating processes by public money. Private sector was enjoying the profit. So it was privatization of profit and socialization of losses. So train was subsidized, it was running in losses, but train was using its mechanism of transportation for the private sector. So it was, even in Nehru's own terminology, it was called mixed economy, private-public partnership. Then it was led by the state. Today it is led by market forces. At that time, it was around national self-reliance. Today, it is in the name of globalization. But the politics or the political economy of Jawaharlal Nehru's time and today's government have many parallels, many similarities. As I said, public-private partnership. That's why when Indira Gandhi, the daughter of Nehru, became prime minister, she had to make a law to control these monopolies. It was called Monopoly Restrictive Practices Act. And but it got perverted into quota permit Raj. So then came Rajiv Gandhi, who said, government is not to create jobs, government is to create law and order situation. Job has to be created by industry, by agriculture. He was not wrong. He went wrong because he thought that now we must move towards market modality. Market is much more competitive. Market is much more, citizen friendly. It was a wrong perception. Nowhere in the world market has been people friendly. Market is always profit friendly. And that makes a country like India, which is still very weak economically, most of the people live with small land holdings. Most of the people are in a small sector or medium sector called unorganized sector. So we needed holding of hands in terms of right to education, right to health, right to livelihood, right to having a livable place to have your family. These rights are coming very slowly. We took 60 years to grant right to education. We have not yet granted right to health. Look at corona-related tragedy. We have realized that right to health is important, and then we will surrender. Right to housing. All this real estate problem which is creating massive destruction of environment, particularly our water bodies, there can be a proper planning so that we know how many people are without homes. We know how to create decent, low-cost housing, but we are not going for it. Why? Because there is no lobby. Lobby is divided on caste lines, religious lines. So to come back to your question, we do have solutions, but Jawaharlal Nehru never got freedom to create a socialist model of rebuilding India. He did go for planning, no doubt, but this planning was more for promoting private-public partnership, confidence of Indian capitalist and industrial class in Indian government. Because in the beginning they were very worried that Nehru is anti-profit, Nehru is anti-industry, Nehru is rich classes. No, Nehru had to spend a lot of time to win the confidence of the privileged classes. And of course, Rajiv Gandhi was an open partner. He invited people, and all these technology missions were a great invitation. It did create some result in telecommunications, in air transport, but he missed the opportunity of giving people basic support in education, in housing, in health. It is not too late. Unless you support your masses, as it happened in America, capitalist country, it happened in China, communist country. Any country with success story has taken care of education, health, and housing. Padhai, kamai, dawai.
The socialists did get a chance after the emergency, and this is something that you mentioned.
Yes, actually, we think that 77 post-emergency government was a socialist-led government. No, the struggle was led by socialists. From Jayaprakash Narayan to George Fernandez, they were in the front line of resisting against emergency. But Prime Minister of the Janta government was Sri Morarji Desai, who was a known champion of private investment. Sri Morarji Desai was followed by Sri Charan Singh, who was totally against land reforms. He was supported by Sri Jagjeevan Ram, who had been a partner with Jawaharlal Ji to Indira Gandhi for private-public partnership. Where were the socialists? There were a few socialists, but they spent more time in fighting amongst each other or fighting against RSS. So no, socialists had very little role. And when they got opportunity in places like UP and Bihar, they got into the track of caste politics, vote bank politics. So instead of solidarity among the poor across the caste, religious groups, they became more interested in the new rich class of their vote bank. So socialism of the Indian variety, which was a mix between Gandhi and Marx, which was articulated by people like Jayaprakash, Lohia, and many others, never got a fair chance. But that is something which has to be like a weak defense. The young generation says that there was a Samajwadi party which commanded power in UP and Bihar. And what did they do? There was an opportunity of competition between three models. One was people-friendly capitalist model led by Bharatiya Janata Party. The other was left front model, Bengal and Kerala. And third was this Samajwadi model, which was giving some attention to caste and gender. Out of the three, as you know, from 2014, the Bharatiya Janata Party model, people-oriented capitalism has been given a fair chance, and many socialists have decided to join this BJP Sarkar led by George Fernandez, Sharad Yadav, Nitish Kumar.
Do you think you mentioned that, people-centric capitalism, that model has won. Has socialism completely lost its relevance?
Actually, socialism is like a bucket out of which a few things have been borrowed by others. So, welfare state idea was a solution of the socialist communist challenge in Western Europe. So, things like education, health, housing were cared by the state without attacking private property. So, it happened in Western Europe, it happened in England. Of course, it happened most beautifully in Scandinavian countries, which are at the top of the Human Development Index even today. In case of India, number of ideas of the socialists were first taken by Jawaharlalji in terms of planning, land reform, then Indira Gandhiji, nationalization of bank, eradicating privy purses, giving some money for investment by small entrepreneurs, agricultural development, giving some money in agriculture green revolution. Then Sri Narasimha Rao and Manmohan Singh, where they encourage some kind of entrepreneurial space, private-public partnership. Now, Sri Narendra Modi has also borrowed a few ideas, like Mahatma Gandhi, National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. This idea of employment guarantee is a socialist idea. It was not there in capitalist system. The idea of subsidized food, idea of cheap medicine, this all is coming from socialist tradition. So socialists must not monopolize these solutions. They have failed to win majority vote. So they must create new political strategies. But they have no copyright over some of the pro-people schemes. And from America to England, many of the capitalist countries have succeeded in overcoming class-related tensions, class-related violence by adopting these schemes. We are also adopting it, and it's a good idea.
Today, the masses of India, do you think they are more bothered with sectarian conflicts rather than, socialist ideas and policies?
Well, see, you have to look at people of India in terms of their categories. There are at least 4 categories of people of India. You can divide them further, or you can make less divisions: educated, uneducated, urban, rural, male, female, minority, majority, backward, forward. There are many ways of looking at people of India. So instead of looking at the masses as such, within inverted comma, let us look at the classes. There is an elite class which lives a life better than elite of Europe. How? They have their own housing, they have their own income, they have their opportunities, they can live in terms of consumption, global level of consumption, and they also have domestic help. Nowhere in the world, either in America or Europe, you have domestic help. You have to wash your toilet yourself, no matter who you are. It's just not available. So that's one level where the elite of India, the rich elite, has gone ahead of rest of the world: China, America, Russia, England. Then there is middle class. Middle class is composed of 2 categories. One is classical middle class, which is based upon education, lawyers, doctors, journalists, many others. There is a new middle class, which has come through some kind of knowledge industry. this new technology, new information system, new media system. This new rich class is very greedy, very self-oriented. It lives in the moment. They don't have far-sightedness of the old middle class. Old middle class was patriotic. The freedom struggle of India was fought by old middle class. Who was Gandhi? He was a lawyer. Nehru, lawyer. Patel, lawyer. Vidhan Chandra, doctor. So these were the people who led the country for freedom because they were looking at totality. They realized that their justice, their freedom, their needs is connected with masses. So they defined Bharat Mata Ki Jai as victory to the farmers and industrial workers of India. That was Nehruvian definition of Bharat Mata. Now we have become self-possessed. So we don't bother about public education, public health, even public sanitation. So public education is down in the dumps, public health is ignored. We don't spend enough money in education and health. If you don't spend enough money in education and health for the masses, how will they feel belonging to the nation? What is being offered by the nation to the poor of this country, ordinary men of this country? That is the third category. Ordinary men and women who live around the average of national income. Then there is this very pathetic class, chronic poor. They are around 25%. All prime ministers have come and gone, all policies have come and gone, but they have not been touched. They are remaining trapped between illiteracy, ignorance, and of course, vulnerability. So, female headed households, child labor, aged people, physically challenged people, landless laborers. You can count at least 1/4 of the population which is belonging to the other India, neglected India, which is suffering benign neglect. So, in a way, there are 4 categories of people. The top 2 categories are enjoying themselves to the hilt. They never had so good ever before in their memory. The rich and superior classes of India. The new middle class is also very ambitious, and we are doing everything to meet their aspirations. In education, employment, health, they have as good facilities as it is anywhere in the world, provided they have the money. And then there is this ordinary average Indian who has to take care of water, electricity, employment, health, and finally the neglected India. So there are 4 stories, 4 narratives, depends where you are connected. If you talk to the new rich, they are very happy. They have 1 feet in India, another feet in Europe and America. If you talk to the elite, they have no problems. But if you talk to ordinary people, they want political reform, economic reform, social reform. If you talk to the neglected bottom of Indian society, they want the whole system to be radically changed. And that change is being registered by the rest of the India, that is the other 3 categories.
You said you are an optimistic person.
Yes.
So are you hopeful with the youth to make changes, to make radical changes and political reforms?
See, I was lucky to be in constant touch with the youth of this country as a teacher. And I saw their idealism far superior than the generation to which I belong. When I was a student activist in the 60s, our demands were rather short-sighted compared to the demands of today's youth. Yesterday, we demanded more education, we demanded employment-oriented policies, we demanded relief here, there and everywhere. Today's youth is asking for gender justice, no violence, that is the call of women. Today's youth is asking for political justice, no violation of our basic rights, and you may call it minorities movement, civil liberties movement, but that is the bottom line of Indian democracy, that as citizens, we have some inviolable rights, and please don't trample upon our rights. Third, they are asking for environment. That is the global call. And if 1/6 of humanity calling India, young people are committed for environment, nothing will stop them from succeeding. And that makes me optimistic. We cannot live with violence. So women are right. We cannot live without democracy. So the poor and the minorities are right. And we cannot live without sustainable relation between economy and environment. So the youth of India is there. And that makes me optimistic.
Thank you so much. It was a very enlightening discussion.